Welcome back to Commander's Call, everybody. We have made it. It is week one. Washington takes on the New York Football Giants at home at Northwest Stadium on Friday. Stick around. We will cover depth charts, matchups to look forward to and to watch out for, as well as score predictions and superlatives. I'm Sam for Ben. This is Commander's Call.
Looking to keep it. Daniels, great move on his feet and in for the touchdown. Oh, what a move. Throws down the sideline for Terry McLaurin. McLaurin is loose. Lightning strikes twice in Washington.
Hey, give me two claps and I break the flame.
Welcome back to Commander's Call, everybody. We have made it through the offseason and we have arrived at week one. The Washington Commanders will take on the New York Football Giants this Sunday at 1 p.m. at Northwest Stadium. Before we get started, I want to give a big encouragement to please subscribe, and share, and please engage on our content. It helps us and it helps us decide what content to put out for you guys. So you can find us anywhere that this is streaming, including YouTube for video, obviously, and audio, anywhere podcasts are found. Ben, how are you feeling? We have made it to week one.
I mean, I'm sure I speak for us all when I say I'm thrilled. The off season felt super long and super short at the same time. You get into those dog days of June and like end of May with not a lot's going on, and it's just like, man, this is taking forever. But once we got into like training camp and preseason, it felt like it started flying by, and obviously I'm excited to watch the football on Sunday.
Ben, real quick. Sorry, we're gonna have to do that over again. How do you have the microphone facing you? The mute button should be towards you.
Okay, I think it's the other way around then, so let me fix that.
Yeah, fix that because that'll help a lot.
Okay, so let me I got that. Screw facing towards me. Take it back up. Okay. That should be better then.
That is much better.
Okay. Was it not super clear before or what?
It just kind of sounded the same as it was before.
Oh, okay.
Try talking really quick, please.
Okay. I'm right here. It could just be the audio in this room could just be
That
awful
that's
too.
I can tell it's better. It's clear.
Okay.
All right. Welcome back to Commander's Call, everybody. We have made it. We have made it to week one. Your Washington Commanders will take on the New York Football Giants this Sunday at 1 p.m. at Northwest Stadium. Before we get started, I want to encourage all of you to please like, share, follow, and subscribe. And please comment and engage with our content. We love hearing from you, and it gives us an idea of what to put out more for you guys, and also helps us get seen. That way, we can continue to put out good content for you guys. So thank you for all that already do that. You can find us rather anywhere podcasts are streaming: Apple Music, Google, Spotify, and obviously here on YouTube for the video version. Ben, how are you feeling about going into week one?
I mean, I think I speak for all of us fans when I say I'm thrilled to watch some Commanders football this Sunday.
Yeah.
The off season feels long and short at the same time. You get into those June dog days where not much is going on and it's like nothing's happening. It's really dragging. Then you get into that July, August period and training camp's really ramping up. And then the preseason hits. It's like that section just flew by and now we're at week one. I was a little scared of this 2 week stretch between preseason game three and regular season week one, but like I said, I feel like it just snapped right by and now we're ready to play some football.
Yeah, obviously the Commanders got some loose ends tied up. Obviously got Terry signed a little bit ago. Everybody kind of knew that was going to happen, but it's really good to finally see it done. So he is here potentially through 2028. We'll have, the last couple weeks to get acclimated and get back ready into this system and ready to play. But he is tracking to play week one. And the Commanders have also released their first unofficial depth chart of the week, which I think will be pretty accurate as to what we'll see on Sunday. Uh, Obviously, the Giants have released theirs as well. So we'll start by running those down, Ben. And obviously, at quarterback, I think we pretty much know what that's going to be. You're going to have Jaden Daniels, our Lord and Savior, Jaden Daniels, as QB1, QB2, Marcus Mariota, QB3, Josh Johnson. Don't see a lot of changes there unless maybe they sign someone this coming week and perhaps Josh Johnson reverts to the practice squad. But pretty easy position group to gauge right now.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that it's Jaden DeMarcus 1 and 2 for the year, and Josh Johnson will probably be the third quarterback all year. But I do think that if a guy like Kendrick Bourne, who we'll get to, is signed in the today or tomorrow, I do see Josh Johnson being the guy that gets cut to make room for that.
I agree.
So I mean, and I think we still have a practice squad spot open. That's just calling his name,
I
begging
think
for
they
him to be
filled that
there.
practice squad spot today
Did they?
with the guard. They signed a guard that was on the Ravens practice squad, that had been on the Ravens practice squad, not from his practice squad, obviously, because he'd have to be on the 53-man roster if that was the case. His name escapes me. If you give me 2 seconds, I can
Was it the
find.
guy that was here for camp, Tyree Phillips?
No, it wasn't
No, someone
Tyree
else.
Phillips.
Someone else that they had
I
around.
know that he was on the Ravens for a while. Hang on one sec. His name is escaping me. Apologize. Regardless, Ravens signed some, or Redskins, no, Commanders signed somebody today as a guard. I'm so sorry that his name escapes me and my phone is not working as it should right now.
Yeah, I missed
Anyway,
that signing.
right.
So the practice squad is full, but that spot could easily be opened back up by cutting one of those veteran guys that are already on there. Or maybe they just don't even want to keep Josh Johnson around. Or maybe they cut Sam Hartman off the practice squad. Just well, you never know. But I do see Josh Johnson being the first to go if we are to bring in a 54th player.
There it is. Darian Dalcourt. They signed
Hmm.
him today, so another practice squad interior offensive line body. Don't know much about him. Sorry, guys. Could have been more prepared for that, but we're looking at 53-man roster now. Moving forward to running back, running back's interesting, and I've seen a lot of people online kind of like not freaking out about it, but like I
It's
mentioned
definitely
before,
curious.
yeah, but I've mentioned before that how I think this is going to be a committee approach and a matchup centric type team from that running back position. I have Austin Eckler as RB1, Jeremy McNichols RB2, Chris Rodriguez RB3, and everybody's favorite Bill at running back 4. I would not be shocked if Bill was a healthy scratch for a couple of games to start the season. And nobody freak out. This is still very early, and it'd be smart to temper your expectations with a rookie seventh round running back who has yet to get his feet wet with NFL snaps, and who also only played one game of college football last year. Uh, I don't see this as an issue or a downgrade, more so as a ramping up period, as Dan Quinn would like to call it. I have no idea who will get the most carries, who will get the most touches, who will even get the first touch out of that backfield. But as it stands now, it's Eckler, McNichols, Rodriguez, and Bill.
Yeah, if I had to guess, like if I had to put money, not that I own a house, but if I had to bet my house on who's going to get the first touch of the game from the running back position, I'm putting it all on Eckler. I think it's pretty clear that he's going to be the de facto running back one, even if that means, well, got a bug flying in my face, even if that means he gets 34% of the carries and the other two guys each get 33. Technically, he got the running back one share of the load. So I do see Eckler as the running back one, but like I said, it's going to be a committee approach. They're not going to give Eckler the ball 25 times a game. Each guy will get,
No,
I think each guy will get somewhere in that 5 to 15 range. And I know it's a big range, but I think this depends on the week who gets 5 and who gets 15 and
right,
who gets 8 in that range. I think it could be one week Eckler gets 15, the next week he gets 5 and Rodriguez gets 15. I don't ever, I guess, really see McNichols being the lead back, but I think he'll always be in that 5 to 8 kind of range. What'll be interesting to see is how they work Bill into that rotation. Because, like you said, being running back 4, 6 guys have to be inactive on game days. I think we have to get down to 47 for game
right,
days, so six
right.
guys have to sit. So someone's got to sit. It's kind of hard to find 6 guys to sit when you look through the roster. So someone's got to do it. So if it's Bill for the first couple of weeks while they trying to get him ramped up, I get it. Even if it's a little unfortunate for us fans that were hoping for a big start, I understand why it's got to happen.
Yeah, and I don't think it's an indictment on Bill by any means whatsoever. It's just for the simple fact that he doesn't have a lot of experience, and he's a seventh round back, and all three guys in front of him have been here. and have at least a year in the offense over him. And yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes. And I'm sure that they have big plans for him. And it's not even a certainty that he is going to be the healthy scratch, but mathematics would tell you that he likely will be. We'll just have to wait and see on Sunday. Wide receiver moving forward is pretty cut and dry as well. Obviously, you have Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown, Debo Samuel will be your top three receivers. Behind that, Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane. Luke McCaffrey, they actually have backing up Noah Brown and Terry McLaurin, so I wouldn't be shocked to see him get involved a little bit as well. Behind that, you have obviously, um, who am I losing here? I feel like I'm missing one wide receiver.
I mean, just
Uh,
those five. I mean, Terry, Noah, Debo, and then Nick or Luke and Jalen Lane.
yeah, just five. That's
So
right.
Jalen Lane's listed as just the primary backup slot, and Luke's just listed as the primary backup outside guy. So I don't think that's necessarily how it would go down if an injury happens. Like if Noah Brown gets hurt, I could see Jalen Lane going out there instead of Luke.
We'll
But at least
see.
for the written depth chart purposes, I mean, there's not. It's really just you have your top three guys and you got your two backups. I don't really see it as this guy's the backup inside, this guy's the backup. They're both probably better suited for the inside, anyways. So I think those are just your two backups. And if someone gets hurt, start praying because it's not going to
Right.
be pretty.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And our top three guys are solid, but
Yes.
obviously the depth gets a little murky after that, which is why they had Kendrick Bourne in for a tryout today, actually. Apparently he got injured August 1st per John Keim in a inter-squad scrimmage and has not really played since. He wasn't waived with the injury designation. They just granted him his release from New England. So it'll be interesting to see if Washington decides to sign him or not. We should know within the next day or so, considering that they have said that there was a contract, the parameters of a contract laid out on the table before he even got there, if they chose to sign him. So definitely somebody that they were interested in. If they don't sign him, I guess it would have to do with either A, money, or B, they didn't feel like his health was up to snuff.
And San Francisco also has an offer on the table for Kendrick. So maybe he comes here and decides, I'd rather go to San Francisco because he was there for a while. And that's his connection to us is he was there for a while when Adam Peters was there. So he went to San Francisco yesterday for a visit, told them, wait a little bit so I can go visit Washington. I think if he leaves today without a deal, there's a pretty good chance he ends up in San Francisco because I don't see how you let him get out of the building if he decides he wants to stay here. So I think, like I said, we'll find out either tonight or like early tomorrow morning
Yeah.
whether he's signing here or not. Because
Yeah, by
once it
the
gets
time you
past
listen
that,
to this podcast, he may have already been signed. So keep that in mind when you're listening. There's also the chance that San Francisco deemed that he was too hurt to play and could have decided not to sign him. It could have been the other way around. Maybe it wasn't
and that's
Kendrick
true.
Bourne saying, I don't want to be here. Maybe it was San Francisco saying, we don't want you. So we'll just have to wait and see. At the end of the day, this is also nothing to get like overly excited about or overly like disappointed about. Would he be a guy that would be a great depth piece? Yes, but at the end of the day, he is a depth piece. He's not going to come in here and catch, 80 balls for 1,000 yards. It's not going to happen. I would look at him as somebody more of like an Olamide Zacchaeus role if they were to bring him in, somebody
Yeah,
to play around with on the back end of the wide receiver depth
right.
chart.
And I see him as wide receiver four right off the bat, to be honest, just because he's experienced, and I'd feel comfortable if Noah Brown were to go down, which he tends to do in his career.
Yeah,
I would feel pretty comfortable throwing Kendrick Bourne out there before Jalen Lane and Luke McCaffrey, just because he has that experience. And if you don't quite think Jalen's ready yet, or you don't want him to have commit to a full-time starting role, and you maybe want to split some snaps with him and a veteran, Kendrick would be a good option for that fifth spot to share with Jalen Lane. And I would push Luke down to that six receiver spot, which could find him inactive on Sundays. So not a great look for Luke's future if we bring Kendrick in, so he's not going to see much playing time.
or maybe it
But
pushes Luke and
right,
and Luke steps up because
it
as we've
definitely could.
mentioned in pods before, we haven't really been able to see what Luke can do given how poor the quarterback play was during the preseason.
Yeah,
So
I do agree it could be a good factor to make Luke step up, but at least the
yeah,
first couple weeks that Kendrick's here, I think it would push Luke to the inactive list.
I don't know about that. I think he'd be inactive for a couple weeks while I get caught up to speed.
That's probably true. And then when Kendrick's caught up, whenever Kendrick's ready to play, that's when I think Luke might be moved to
Sure,
the inactive,
sure.
depending on what he shows leading up to
Right.
that.
And I mean, think about last year when they signed KJ Osborne off of waivers and he was inactive for like 3 or 4 straight weeks. you
Yeah, I don't
know?
think he was ever active other than the Falcons game.
Yeah, I think you're right. It sounds about right. Yeah, so something similar to that, where like he's not going to just come right in and play the very next day after he gets signed.
Right. A
It's
better
gonna
complement to Noah
everybody gets a
Brown.
ramping up period,
Right.
including Terry McLaurin. So, moving forward into tight end, another pretty cut and dry. Zach Ertz, obviously tight end one. Bates slides in as your tight end two, but another position where I'm like, don't really look at numbers after one because Bates is a role player. Bates isn't going to be in a lot of like, he's not going to be running a lot of routes. Bates is really there as an extra offensive lineman and one of the best down blocking tight ends in the NFL. And then behind that, you have Ben Sinnott, who we're hoping to see more from this year as well.
And then Kolesnikov, of course, out there
Right,
as tight end four.
right.
Another guy that it's tough because I know they love Kolesnikov on special teams, but six guys have to be inactive. It's going to be hard to keep four tight ends active every week, and I don't see Ben Sinnott being inactive.
I don't know,
So
man. I
it's
could.
possible. It's definitely possible, but it'll be tough to sell like, oh, the second round pick from last year is going to be inactive, so the UDFA can play special teams. And like, I know that that's very possible, but every fifth string player we have on our team plays special teams, and some of them have to sit the bench. Some of the true
Yeah,
backups have to be active in case someone who actually plays defense gets hurt and they need them to come on. So
I
it'll be
agree.
interesting.
I agree to a point, but Peters has also shown, especially after cutting Dominic Hampton, that he's willing to play other guys over his own draft picks.
I definitely agree with that.
So wait and see. I know Yankoff's
Yeah.
trajectory has been skyrocketing lately, but who's to say Sinnott just didn't benefit from or did not get good quarterback play too? So maybe we didn't see what he can really do. Uh,
Right.
Something that we'll have to keep an eye on as the course of the season moves on. Now
Yeah.
I want to get into something a little more interesting, and that's the offensive line. Obviously, you have Laramie Tunsil at left tackle, Brandon Coleman at left guard, centers Tyler Biotish, Brinson repeat, same thing every week barring injury. Obviously, Coleman or Cosme is out until at least week 5 on the PUP with the recovering from the ACL tear. Excuse me. Behind that, you have Allegretti and you have Wiley. They have Allegretti or Wiley listed as a starting right guard. And I think for that reason is because they're letting Connerly start alone at right tackle, which I love. And I think Connerly is much further along in his development at this point in the year than Coleman was last year at left tackle. Taking nothing away from Coleman, but Connerly is just a far and away better tackle prospect than Coleman was.
And
And
Coleman also missed the whole like most of the offseason with an injury.
right.
Well, not most of he missed the whole preseason and a lot like the end of training camp with an injury, which really stunted his development. Or else I think he would have been the undisputed left tackle starter week one in the whole season.
Right. And I think my breakdown of this or my reasoning, my hypothesis behind this is Allegretti will be the first one out and they'll see how Connerly is doing at right tackle. And if a swap or spelling is needing to happen to help out Connerly a little bit with the Giants pass rush, I think we could see some swap out situations, perhaps. But I think Connerly's good enough to handle that, and we'll see one of the two of Allegretti and Wiley at right guard come Sunday. That clears up offense for us. Do you have any comments on the offensive line, Ben?
I will say I do think it's a good shot that Wiley gets the right guard spot out of the gate. I think the reason it's or right now is because Allegretti got most of the snaps there all offseason because Wiley
Yep.
had to move all around because he was splitting out right tackle, then he had to play left tackle with Tunsil out, then left guard with Coleman out. So he didn't get
Yeah.
a chance. I think that you mentioned that they wanted him a right guard, and I always said I think it'll be Allegretti just because Allegretti got all the snaps. I think we were almost both right in the situation where I think they did always want it to be Wiley. But I think it might end up being Allegretti just because he got all the consistency there.
Right.
But I do think they want Wiley at right guard until Cosby's back because then that makes Allegretti your primary guards center backup. And you don't if you have Allegretti at guard and then Biotish goes down, you got to shift Allegretti over and bring Wiley in. So you're making two changes on the O line instead of just one if you already have Wiley in and you're swapping Biotish and Allegretti out. So for consistency's sake, I'd like to just get Andrew Wiley out there at right guard just so for those first 4 weeks, we're assuming he's the guy at guard before Cosby comes back. We're not doing a bunch of switcheroo with who's out there building that chemistry.
Yeah, I think it's important to note too that Allegretti is currently listed as a backup center as well because
Right.
we don't have another true center on the squad right now. So that could be a reasoning behind that. But it's good to have depth either way you look at it. And Washington has really gained a lot of that on the offensive line this offseason. I'm really
Right.
excited to watch them meet. I think
So
they're
am
going to
I. And
run the crap out of the ball.
last note with Connerly. I've always been a firm believer of if you even think he's good enough, sink or swim.
Yeah.
Just let him go out there, let him fail, let him succeed. I don't want to see him go out there and lose to Brian Burns one time on a bad pass rush and then get taken out of the game.
Yeah, just kill his confidence. Yeah.
Right, let him fail and let him give him the chance to redeem himself and succeed on the next rep, next drive, next
Yeah.
quarter. So I think if you're gonna start him, just let him play the whole game unless it's a disaster. If he's just getting
Right.
constantly beat,
Yeah.
but even if it's shaky, just let him finish it out.
Yeah. If he's getting wrecked in the first half, I think maybe at halftime you're like, all right, we're going to throw in Wiley for a little bit and, let him get some mental reps and watch how it's done. And then maybe reinsert him next week. But I think Connerly's going to be just fine.
Yeah, I
And
think he's gonna be
I
great.
think he's going to be a bookend for years to come. To wrap up offense, moving forward to defense, starting defensive line pretty cut and dry as well. You got Dietrich Wise on one end, Deron Payne and Javon Kinlaw in the middle, Dorrance Armstrong on the other end, and Von Miller's listed as an outside linebacker in the starting lineup right now. But I'm not going to see, they're not going to have three linebackers on the field all the time. Probably more in passing down situations. Obviously, if Von Miller's on the field, that's what his specialty is, pass rushing. And we'll see a lot of rotations in there with Johnny Newton, Eddie Goldman, Javante Jean Baptiste, and Jacob Martin. I'm a little bit more excited about this defensive front, I think, than most. A lot of people were waiting for the huge edge rusher drafting or signing. That didn't really seem to happen until we signed aging Von Miller, a 36-year-old Von Miller, who can still play. Don't get me wrong, but a little bit underwhelming of what I originally thought that they were going to do at the position this offseason. However, the way that they did it, I think they do have guys that can get after the ball and get after the quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have role players. They brought in a lot of different role players. They brought in Dietrich Wise, who is going to be your base starting, first and second down guy. He's good
Right.
against the run. He's going to set a physical edge, and you're not going to see every big Saquon Barkley run that they had against us last year bounced out straight towards the left side like it was last year against Dante Fowler. And no disrespect to Dante, had a great year, double-digit sacks, but he was asked to do way too much, and that's just not what he does. So we have brought in a guy like Dietrich. That is what he does. He sets the edge. So he's going to be your typical starter. And if you count, there's 12 starters listed on defense. Obviously, you only play 11. So it's really going to be rush down, Dietrich Wise, pass down, Von Miller. He's listed in that same outside linebacker role that Dante Fowler was last
Yep.
year.
Yep.
And I think that really might only be because the defensive linemen, the old number rules still apply, where it has to be like in the 40s, 50s, 60s, or 90s, where linebackers can wear whatever number they want. So I don't know if that's actually the only reason they do it like that, is so he can wear whatever number he wants, or if it's just like a technicality if he's an outside linebacker pass rusher, not technically like a defensive lineman.
He cannot
But
be listed
it's
as a
all
defensive
semantics.
lineman. They said he cannot be listed as a defensive lineman with a 20 number. That's the only
Right.
reason he's listed as outside linebacker. Just
Yeah.
wild to me.
So, and that's kind of what I figured. I wasn't sure if it was literally that simple or if they had some kind of semantics. Oh, well, because he's a pass rush specialist, sometimes the list is, as an outside linebacker, even in a system where defensive ends play the edge.
Right.
But so that the linebacker, right, like designation doesn't really mean anything.
Right.
He could be listed at cornerback for all I care. We all know he's not playing cornerback.
Exactly. He's
So,
he's there to do one thing and one thing only, and that's to rush the quarterback.
like I say, so Von Miller and Jacob Martin, they're both your pass rush guys. They're mainly going to get out there on third downs, third and longs, ideally third and six and more,
Yeah.
and get after the quarterback. And then you have Johnny Newton, who's probably more of a pass rush guy at this point, but I think he could definitely build up the run stop. But his pass, just terrorizing quarterbacks up the middle was what he was known for in college. That's what you're hoping
Right.
for out of him. And then you have Eddie Goldman, who's going to be the designated like run stopping guy. And then honestly, Deron Payne and Javon Kinlaw are kind of both guys who do both pretty good. I think they're both guys who lean more towards stopping the run, but can also rush the passer. But I feel like we have a lot of guys who do one thing really well, or
Yeah.
do like one thing really well and another thing kind of decent. So,
Right.
but we don't really have like that guy that's like great at both, like a Miles Garrett or a TJ Watt or
And hard to find.
maybe even, and they're very hard to find. But we brought in guys who can do their job.
With Eddie Goldman, I think we could actually see him a good bit on passing downs because he can just sit by himself in the middle of the defense and take up two blocks and open up gaps for the rushers. So I think there's going to be some instances. Yes, you'll see him on running downs, but I think you'll see him on a lot of passing downs too. That'll free up guys like Frankie Louvu and
Yeah,
Von
all
Miller
those blitzes up the middle.
correct. Yeah, they really love to send Louvu and Wags up the middle last year. So
Yeah,
speaking,
absorbing the guard and center, and then the linebacker just comes right through. And this, we saw Luvu and Wagner both
yeah,
blow up running backs last year, time after time after time. So
yeah.
if you're not getting a center or a guard to slow them down, those running backs don't stand a chance.
For sure. I'm excited to watch that. And to speak a little bit more on linebackers, we'll move into the linebacker position group where you have obviously Frankie and Bobby Wagner listed as your two starters at linebacker. The interesting thing to me is behind Luvu at as his backup, they have listed Nick Ballore, which he's a special team specialist. I really cannot see him seeing the field in a defensive situation unless like you said earlier, start praying. And
Yeah,
nothing against his skill set. He just has a very, very specific skill set
and he's
that,
37
yeah,
and never played linebacker in his career, so there's a reason for that.
right. And behind that, you have El Cajo and Kay Madrano and Jordan McGee, all pretty unproven. But there's some sort of depth there that, still needs to be developed. But, God willing, Wagner and Luvu stay healthy until then.
Yeah, I think the only reason that Nick Ballard even listed as the backup is like we said because he is 37.
Yeah,
The
seniority.
only other three guys on the roster are a sixth round rookie, an undrafted rookie, and a fifth round pick from last year. So there's not a
Right.
lot of experience or even like high draft capital invested. It's not like there's a second round pick back there or a third round pick back there. It went a day three and UDFA guy. So I think he's really just there out of name only. If Wagner and Luvu both got hurt, I really doubt Ballore is one of the two guys that comes on the field to replace them. And I
Right.
feel like even if Luvu goes down, I feel like McGee's is kind of the backup to both. No matter which one goes out, I think McGee's the primary backup, and then they'll move from there if they have to.
Moving forward into our cornerback room, another pretty easy shakedown. Your CB1, Marshawn Lattimore, two, Trey Amos, and moving back inside, Mikey Sanders still. Um, Behind Lattimore, they have Jonathan Jones. Behind Trey Amos, they also have Jonathan Jones. Behind Mikey, they have Noah Igbenogany. Jonathan Jones is like Mikey. He has the ability to play on the inside and the outside. So that's a really good piece to have to move around a little bit. I'm really excited about the cornerback room, and I think that it'll hinge on the health of Marshawn Lattimore. But I think Trey Amos is going to be one of those. Trey Amos, rather, famous Amos, is going to be one of those dudes. I'm really excited to
Yeah,
watch him play as well.
I'm super thrilled. I know we have some matchups listed later, but I could honestly see Amos being the guy that they give the neighbors assignment to. I don't think they're going to have anybody trail. I think just going to stick to their side. I think they're pretty comfortable. Whether Neighbors lines up on the left against Marshawn or on the right against Trey or even in the slot against Mikey. I don't think they're going to feel the need to rotate the corners around, which is why I love this group so much.
Yeah,
So many times in my lifetime watch this team, we either had one good corner or no good corners. And so we were watching just like the only good corner we have trail around a receiver that was just bullying him the whole time, but he had to because he's the only shot we had of slowing him down. Or we had no good corners like last year where Neighbors lined up on the left and cooks St. Juice and on the right and cooks Michael Davis and then back to the left and now Forbes is
jeez.
out there, God forbid.
Oh,
And Mikey was still young at that point, still getting a little experience, so he was trying his best out there. But I feel like with all three guys this year, I don't really have any concerns. Like, is Malik Neighbors going to get his? Yeah, but I don't see the need to move any guy around to stop a specific guy. So I feel like that's a really optimistic way of being able to look at this cornerback room
yeah, I
that we
agree.
probably haven't been able to do since the days where it was like Daryl Green and Champ Bailey and Fred Smoo and Deion Sanders. Like those days where
Yeah.
it's just like super deep in the cornerback room.
Yeah, I think it's the deepest they've had in a while. And I also believe that the safety group, which we'll go into now, is the deepest that we've had in a while. I know a lot of people have been, for some reason, down on it, but I think that may have been the loss of Jeremy Chin kind of scaring people, but I'm pretty high on Will Harris. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. I know I've mentioned that before. He slides in as your starting strong safety. Starting free safety, obviously, is Quan Martin, expected to skyrocket this year. And behind them, you have Percy Butler, Jeremy Reeves, and Tyler Owens carrying five safeties, all who I think are athletic and capable in their own right. Percy Butler, obviously, is somebody that you'd rather see more on special teams, but I think there will be some situations where we see him on the field in nickel and dime packages.
Yeah, I'm excited for the safety room to a degree. I just love Quan Martin.
Me too.
He just has all the look and the aura and just the makeup to be a real star going into year three now.
Right.
And when you look at like a player taken in the draft outside of the first round, and even in the first round, after year three is when those extension talks start happening. So Quan Martin goes out and has a big year this year. He's going to be looking to make some money, and so
Yeah.
that's something to watch out for. Is that this almost is like a contract year, is based off the way that these deals typically get done. So I think he's just poised to be like a Pro Bowl caliber year. All Pro is tough because there's some good safeties in the conference, especially.
Right.
But even in general, being an All Pro is really tough. But I'm looking at like a Pro Bowl caliber year for Quan, and I'm super excited to see what he brings. And Will Harris, to be determined. I think that he's going to be a lot better in the pass or against the pass than Jeremy Chin was. And Jeremy Chin was good against the run, but we saw some flaws in there too. It's not wrapping up. So I really don't see how Will Harris can be worse than Jeremy Chin. Even though Chin was pretty good, I still think Harris has that potential to be even better.
Yeah, overall they're pretty comparable players, but my favorite part about Will Harris is a very short tackler. So it'll be exciting to see how, he uses that in the Commanders defense, which I have personal high expectations for this year. Moving into special teams, incumbent Tressway, likely in his last year, perhaps Ring of Fame player. Gotta love him. That's your punter, that's your holder.
I think that's a 100% guaranteed Ring of Fame player.
Better be. I'd put him in there. Matt Gay, my favorite player on the team. He'll be at the kicker. And interesting. Well, we had long snapper Tyler Ott. If you're not talking about your long snapper, that's a good thing, and we're not going to spend much time on that because he does his job. My most interesting thing I think that I see on the entire depth chart is Debo Samuel listed as the number one kick returner. That's going to be something to watch, especially with these new kickoff rules and how teams are trying to pooch them as to not get in the end zone because a touchback is now automatically to the 35-yard line. So
I hate it. I hate it, if I'm being
yeah,
honest.
I think we're going to see a huge decrease in touchbacks and a big increase in returns.
Yeah, not to
And that's
get
why we're seeing Debo there as
right.
returner one.
And not to get too far off topic, but it just seems so silly that the league a few years ago was trying to crack down on less returns because of how dangerous they were. And they were thinking about implementing like the UFL rules of, or even not UFL rules, just like, oh, just every team starts the ball in the 25 with no kickoff. That was the proposed rule.
Yeah.
And now they're like, oh yeah, now let's make it so we get more returns because that's better for player safety somehow. So I don't know. Like Eckler got both of his concussions last year on kick returns. That's the whole fear of kick returns is they're dangerous. So I don't really know what the league's doing. And now like making that touchback an automatic 35, they're just trying to boost up offensive stats. Now they only have to go
Right.
65 yards for a touchdown. Used to be from the 20, needed to go 80, then it moved to the 25, then the 30, now we're up to the 35. Next is going to be the 50-yard line. They're going to give the offense the ball if you kick it into the end zone. So
Well, I think we see a lot less of those touchbacks for that exact reason. And I also think that's why we saw such strange special team play from across the league all during the preseason. And I know a lot of people were upset about our coverages. And I'm sitting back and I'm watching all 22 of each preseason game. And I'm like, they're trying out concepts because this is a new facet to the game. It's completely different than it was before. I just don't see how. Last year we had one of the best coverage units on special teams, and we didn't really lose anybody from there and
right.
gain people from there actually. So I don't see how that's gonna fall off. I just it doesn't. I attest that way more to them trying things out during the preseason than this is what special teams is gonna look like week one. But it'll be interesting to see. It's a brand new thing. Hopefully it brings us some kick returns for touchdowns and other teams not because we don't want other teams to do that. That's just how it goes here at Commander's Call.
Yeah, if you watch the kickoffs, like each one was different. Like there was one where he kicked it really high, and those one where he kicked it like really short, like a line drive, and
Yeah.
I think it's the preseason for everybody, right? It's the
Right.
preseason for the special teams too. You think Cliff's not out there trying new offensive concepts or putting guys in new positions? You think Joe Witt's not out there putting guys in new positions, trying new stuff? And special teams is the third phase. You think Larry Izzo's not out there trying to try new special teams formations and or strategies? So I think there's like, hey, what would happen if we just tried to kick it on a short line drive and not really give them time to prepare? So let's kick it short and fast and over to the corner and see what happens. And it didn't work out very good. We did it twice against New England, and there was a touchdown the one time and the big Gibson return. And then against the Bengals, they had the big return on that same style kick. I think we learned we don't want to do that, but I think they're just trying stuff, put in the special teams, the gunners and whatnot in different spots and see like testing them like, hey, you're going to make a play, but make a bigger play this time and see what you can do. But I think when we get into the regular season, we're going to, back to normal regular special teams play. They're not going to try anything crazy, and it'll be what we're used to, I think.
Right. Well, now we want to move into some matchups to watch for. Stick around. Sunday brings the first game as Washington takes on the New York Football Giants at not FedEx Field, Northwest Stadium at 1 p.m. on Sunday. The Giants have had a good amount of offseason acquisitions this year. Obviously, drafted Abdul Carter in the first round, traded back up into the first round, drafted Jackson Dart, who will not be starting. It will be Russell Wilson. Excuse me. A few matchups that I have, and I'll start with the first one. That's obviously our offensive line versus New York's defensive line. Nothing to shake a stick at. They have Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, and obviously who I just mentioned, Andre Carter or Abdul Carter, who make one of the most fearsome front fours in the entire NFL. Now we have countered that by all the offseason additions on our offensive line, i.e., Josh Connerly and Laramie Tunsil. But that'll still be an interesting matchup to watch and probably the main focal point of the game for me, especially how Connerly does over on that right end by himself.
Yeah, honestly, like I was more scared about this matchup in theory than I was when I actually started looking when we just were looking at the depth charts. Like our offensive line, like if we had Cosme still, I really wouldn't be breaking a sweat if I'm being honest. But with that uncertainty of right guard, not quite knowing what we're gonna get, I am scared of Dexter Lawrence, but no one else really scares me. Like, I'm super confident that Tunsil can shut down whichever one of those three edge rushers is on his side, whether it's Thibodeau or Burns or Carter. And we saw in college where Connerly shut Carter down, so maybe we could see that again. And I think that he's athletic enough to take care of a guy like Burns. And the
Hmm.
trouble will be with Thibodeau, he has a little bit more of the power. Burns has that good power too, but he kind of has that converting the power to speed kind of guy, where I think
Right.
Thibodeau's has more of the straight power. But so that'll be interesting just to see how he matches up with those guys that are a little more experienced and a little more savvy. And so that'll it'll. But I'm confident in him, and assuming we have Bates out there chipping or just blocking decently often to help him out, and the right guard chipping to help him out. It'll just be tough to. You can't really have the guard help him out because you're going to need that guard to help double team Dexter Lawrence if Dexter's on their side. So
Right. And that also could be to go back into the running back room as to why they have Jeremy McNichols listed as RB2. Jeremy McNichols is excellent against for in pass protection and passing down. So maybe there's situations where he's in there helping to chip some blocks too, because he's shown before that he is very capable and willing to do that.
yeah, I mean, our first impression of Jimmy Nichols last year was that awesome block on that Terry touchdown against the Bengals, where he just lit that dude up, flipped him over, and gave Jaden just enough time to make that throw before the
Yep.
second blitzer just lit Jaden up. But I mean, I think that's why McNichols is ultimately on this roster, is his special teams play one, but he's
Sure.
probably the best pass blocking running back in the room.
Yes, without a doubt. Moving forward into my next matchup to watch for, it's Lattimore or Amos against Malik Neighbors. Last year, Malik Neighbors just torched us again. He was going against three. not so great corners that are not here anymore. But to take nothing away from Malik Neighbors, he isn't a perennial all pro type
Yeah, he was
player.
doing it to everybody.
He do it to everybody. However, I will say he has been dealing with a toe injury for most of the summer. Didn't play in the preseason. Hasn't practiced much since the beginning of August. So it'll be interesting to see if he's actually up to full speed or not, because they don't have a whole lot behind him. Wan'Dale Robinson obviously tore us up last year in the slot. I think he had 11 catches in one
Yeah.
game against us. And that's another little unheralded that I didn't have on the list, but it'll be interesting to see how Mikey Sandersville matches up against Wan'Dale Robinson in the slot. But I digress. I think our cornerback room, as I mentioned before, goes by how Lattimore plays, and there will be situations whether they line up against each other the whole game or not, where Lattimore will be facing up against Malik Neighbors.
Yes.
And I, the main thing is just don't get any penalties, don't get any dumb penalties. Play your game, play smooth, play with a easy mind, and I think we'll be fine. Because really, outside of that, Neighbors is about all they have on offense.
Yeah, I mean, they have some fun pieces. Like I like Tyrone Tracy Jr. He's a
Yeah,
pretty good running back. He's got some fumble issues, but he's a former receiver turned running back, and those tend to have some fumble issues.
yeah,
Uh, you know, they have some like Wan'Dale Robinson's a good slot receiver, but he's one of those guys where he's going to catch 11 balls a game, and he's going to average 6 yards a catch. So he's not like a big play guy. And they brought Darius Slayton back, who is pretty much a De'Ami Brown style player, where he's going
yeah.
to do nothing and then catch one random 50-yard
Good
deep
comp.
ball. So you really want to make sure that the safeties are ready for that, especially with Russell Wilson. That's really all he does well at this point in his career is throw
Right.
that deep ball. So you got to make sure those safeties are ready for that. Can't have any Benjamin St. Juice moments where he's playing 15 yards off the line of scrimmage and still gets beat deep for a touchdown. Pretty embarrassing, but
Yeah, it's a
I'm
lot different
excited.
team from last
It
year,
is a
and,
lot
and
different.
Russell Wilson. We watched Russell Wilson last year in a heartbreaking game against the Steelers, and he can't throw the ball over the middle anymore. He only
No.
throws the ball to the outside of the field, and I think that's going to limit that offense quite a bit. And I think Washington should be able to lock that down if they stay on their P's and Q's. Now, going into my last matchup to watch for, it's a inter-squad matchup, and that's Matt Gay versus himself. I don't want to be too hard on Matt Gay, but I am just generally hard on kickers as it is, especially after how last season went with the revolving carousel of kickers. Excuse me, Gay has had some issues in practice, missing from distance, anything pretty much beyond 45, 49, about 50-50, if that. Um, can't have that this year. And he's got to hit everything. And I just like I've said in other pods before, I just do not think that the rate that we hit on fourth downs last year is going to be as sustainable because teams are well aware of what we like to do when it's fourth and short or even fourth and medium. So Matt Gay, be on your stuff, man, because I'm going to be watching.
Well, and Dan Gwynn even said in a press conference because I someone asked him about the fourth down success last year and how that translates to this year, and he said a lot of the fourth down success was us calling a play and Jaden just making magic happen on the fourth down.
Yeah,
You can't rely on that.
no,
You already can't rely on fourth down success. But you especially can't rely on fourth down success when the whole thing is just we'll call a random play and hope Jaden makes it work.
right.
Not that that's what they were doing, but what's what it ended up being is well you call it a play, but Jaden just starts running around until the play doesn't even matter that it happened anymore. So it'll definitely be interesting. Obviously, I still don't want to be kicking any 50 plus yard field goals in general, but if we're in that of like sub 50 range, we need to feel comfortable going to Gay. So,
Well, if you just score touchdowns on every single drive, then we won't have to worry about it, right?
and that's definitely a solution to that problem.
Yeah, that's the goal. Just actually every play you have the ball, just score a touchdown. I think that would
Well,
work.
yeah. I mean, one important matchup that we missed in the notes that I think is important is that Andrew Thomas is dealing with an injury.
Yeah,
So our D line, I'm already excited because their offensive line is not, that great looking at it. Let's see. Obviously, they got Andrew Thomas if he's healthy. Then they have John Runyon Jr. at guard, John Michael Smits, who was like a second round pick last year that hasn't looked that good,
yeah.
Greg Van Roten, and Jermaine Eluemunor, all journeyman kind of players.
I think Manor is a rookie. I'm pretty sure he was a rookie this year. Jermaine Manor.
That was the
Alu-
receiver from Stanford,
Oh, you're right. You're right. You're
Alec
right. You're right.
Iomanner that
Oh
got
man,
drafted
that's
by the
silly of me.
Titans.
But Lu
But
Manor was last year, maybe.
he's got one of those names and play styles where he
Yeah.
plays like he's a journeyman, whether he is one or
Gotcha.
not at this point.
Okay.
So I don't there's no one on that offensive line that scares me to begin with. Like Payne and Kinlaw should eat up the middle. And whoever's on that right side should eat off that right tackle. So if Andrew Thomas isn't playing, like even if he is playing, our defensive line should still have a good game. But if Andrew Thomas is out, I think it should just be utter domination.
Yeah.
And that's not like me saying that's what's going to happen. That's just me saying if our D line's what we think it could be, if Andrew Thomas doesn't play, that's what needs to be happening because this is a low level offensive line, probably going to be one of the worst you play of the year. Definitely the worst we play all year if Thomas is out. So we have to kind of prove against that we can show up when it's needed to.
Yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on. A lot of good matchups. Moving forward and coming to the end of the podcast, I wanted to do a little bit predictions. First predictions of the year, Ben. Um, let's start out with who do you think is going to be the leading rusher from the Washington Commanders for the Week 1 matchup against the Giants?
Maybe this is a cop out, maybe it's not, but I'm just going to say Jaden.
Yeah,
I just think that like we've been talking it up the whole time. This is going to be a running back by committee. And I think that could end up looking like Jaden 60 yards, Eckler 55 yards, McNichols 45 yards, and Rodriguez 35 yards. Where
that'd
you're
be
looking at
great.
you're looking at like 170 on the ground, but it's going to be, split up almost perfectly evenly across the four guys that play. So and maybe even you throw Debo in there for like 10 yards, maybe he gets two carries or something like that. So I just don't think there's going to be a guy that takes over, and I think that Jaden has at least for this week. We'll see how it goes moving forward. I think that he's going to be the leading rusher this week, especially, not all the passing concepts are going to gel yet. They're still got to build a little bit of that chemistry and get comfortable.
Right.
So I think he'll lean on those legs to make sure big plays happen.
That being said, I believe FanDuel has the over under for Jaden's rushing total 40 and a half. You say over or under?
That's tough because I could easily
Yeah.
see it being like, I guess with my prediction over, but that is tough because the Giants' defensive line is good, so they're going to get pressure, but their corners are bad, so guys are going to be open.
Okay.
So I think that it could be one of those games where because they get pressure quick, Jaden's really good at getting around pressure, especially when it gets there fast and getting out of the pocket and scrambling. But also because I think the receivers are going to get open, that pressure could come quick. You could just be lighting them up with slant, drag, quick
Yeah.
in, quick out, quick 5 yard curl, stuff like that. So I guess I'd go over. 40 and a half, I'd go over either way. I think at least 50.
I would probably say the same, and just for the sake of the podcast, I'll take a different player. I'm gonna go ahead and say Austin Eckler. Two times that we played the Giants last year, Austin Eckler had good games both times. I think one game he actually went for like 120 plus. Um, so possibly we see that again. And like we've been talking about, it's going to be a committee approach. So I think it's a very hard thing to gauge until you're actually watching the game itself. But I would wager to say yours is probably going to be the correct one. But for the sake of the podcast, I'll go with Austin Eckler.
I think Eckler definitely be the leading running back
Sure.
in terms of rushing yards.
Okay.
I'd agree with you there.
Now receiving, Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown, Zach Ertz. Where are you going? Who's going to have the most receiving yards in this game?
See, obviously, you just want to say Terry, but I feel like Terry's known for kind of slow starts, it feels like. And I don't know why that is. And now, especially Terry, who's kind of known for a slow start coming out without playing through any of training camp, I'm going to pick Debo. I'm going to take Debo, leading receiver.
Okay.
And I feel like it's a pretty safe, but kind of bold prediction to take.
Okay. I'm going to go Noah Brown. I'm gonna throw a wild card out there. I'm just gonna say Noah Brown. I'm gonna say Noah Brown goes 4 for 80 and a touchdown. That'll be my prediction. Um,
And I could see
last,
it.
I mean, if he's healthy, guy can play. Before we wrap it up, what's your score prediction?
This isn't going to be an easy. I could see us running the ball a lot, which is going to drive the score down a little bit. Obviously, it's shorten the game up. So I'm going to go with something like, let's see, let's say 23-13. I like
Okay.
23-13. That's two touchdowns, three field goals. Although that kind of doesn't feel like a lot. I'm going to change that on the fly. I'm going to say 24-13.
Okay.
That's three touchdowns and a field goal. I feel pretty confident in that. I could see it being like 17-13 going into the fourth quarter. we get a touchdown to go up 24-13, and the game just kind of stalls out from there.
I'm going to say 34-17 Commanders. I have a feeling that this offense is going to be even better than it was last year, and I think they're going to come out gunning. And I don't think that the Giants team is, I don't think that defense is going to be enough to even handle us. So I'm going to say 34-17 Commanders, 1-0 going into Thursday Night Football week 2 in Green Bay. So
But before we peace out, what would be your concern level if we were to lose this game?
for the whole season,
Yeah, like what, like how would you be would you like extreme reaction like, oh, this is a bad sign? Shake it off as week one jitters because that seems to happen every year where there's random week one wins and losses, and the
right?
next, that team loses the next 15 straight and goes 1-15 or 1-16 now. So like this, are you like really concerned, kind of concerned, not concerned at all if we were to lose this game?
Um, because of the strength of the schedule, I would be a little concerned considering they have a quick turnaround to go into Green Bay on the road just 5 days later. But I wouldn't be overly concerned because for this reason, we have several position groups that are pretty brand new this year. Offensive line, namely, uh, wide receivers are a little different, adding Debo, but I don't think that's going to take much of a gelling process. And then
No.
your cornerback room obviously is pretty new with them all working together. But overall, I think if they drop the game, I won't be like overly shocked. Like I fully expect them to win, but I won't be shocked given the Giants play us tough
Yes.
and their whole franchise is in do or die mode. So you never know what tricks they're going to try to pull out. Maybe they'll throw Jackson Dart in for a couple series and it confuses us. Could happen. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I think we're disciplined and this team has proven itself in with their backs against the ropes before. I think they come out hot. I think they're flying around. It's a home game. It's a national game of the week for 1 o'clock games. They'll be all right. But my concern level would probably be minimal at best. But you always want to see them win.
Right. I'd agree that it's only concerning because the schedule only gets tougher,
Right.
and you really need that win
Yes.
because 4-3 feels a lot better than 3-4.
Sure.
So I agree that for that reason, I would agree it to be concerning. But in terms of like how I view the team if they lose, I wouldn't really be that concerned.
Yeah, I think Quinn and the staff are going to have them ready to start fast. They know what's at stake and they know the schedule behind them. Although they do take it 1 week at a time, they're still conscious about it. But hey, that wraps it up here for us, guys. Thank you for listening to Commander's Call. As I mentioned before, please like, follow, share, and subscribe. And please engage with our content. We really want to hear from you. We want to get to know you, and we want to put out the content that you guys want us to put out. You can find us anywhere podcasts are streamed here on YouTube for your video versions, Spotify, Apple Music, and beyond for the audio. For Ben, I'm Sam. Thanks for sticking around. This is Commander's Call.